Welcome to episode 2 of the BMW Sim Academy. Nils, glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Bruno.
Well, today we're going to talk about something a little different. But to start with, Max told us last time what makes sim racing so special and unique. Today, tell us what one would need to start with sim racing.
Yeah, sure. As you know, sim racing is quite a big scene that you can get into, and I know for beginners can be really overwhelming to get an overview what there really is. And I think today I want to focus first on hardware and then look a bit into software.
So let's start with the hardware. Tell us, if someone wants to start with sim racing, what should he do?
There's a huge range of equipment that you can buy. You can have something really expensive from the high-end range that we use here at BMW. So we use very big screens, high refresh rate. We have steering wheels that work right in the M4 GT3 as well. So this is what I have right in front of me. The rim then is mounted to a really powerful base, delivering a lot of forces so we can feel what the car is doing. We do have pedals that have a so-called load cell that can take 100 kilos or more. So it's really realistic, like in the real car. All this then is mounted to a rig that is very sturdy, so all these forces don't shake your room or whatever you race in. But of course, this is for the professionals, right? And in sim racing, you can choose for every amount of money, there's something. So there's also something on the very bottom of the range. For example, we have this motor right in front of us here, which is a bit smaller, which is a bit cheaper, doesn't deliver as high forces. There's a rim in front of it, which doesn't work in the real car, but is perfectly fine for sim racing. And so there are pedals as well that don't take 100 kilos, but they still work very fine if you're just getting started.
Okay, I see. So I guess I can start with a couple of €100. But software is very important too. So tell us, what do we play?
Hold on, we're not playing. But seriously. All these games, they are really realistic, right? They have the aim to simulate real life as best as they can. So we have a huge variety in cars and tracks. Everything that has wheels is most likely going to be in any sim. Or every track that is there or has been there is probably also possible to drive in a simulator.
That's nice, very interesting. But tell us more, what is the difference between the different simulations?
Let's just speak about iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione for now, because we're focusing on those in the series. iRacing has a huge variety in cars. They have the slowest you can have, from road cars to Formula One cars. Everything is in there. They have tracks from the entire world, be it a city track in an urban area, be it a large oval somewhere in Texas. And then there's Assetto Corsa Competizione, which focuses a lot on a single series, for example, which in their case is GT3s, GT4s, and they also have a M2 CS Racing in the game for now. And to decide what you want to play, maybe also costs play a role. iRacing's model is subscription-based. You can pay monthly, you pay for every content that you buy, and ACC is more the go-to with a single payment kind of game. But then again, on iRacing, you have the competition system where there's a lot of hosted races every other hour. And this is the things that differ a bit between the games. When you started sim racing, which game did you choose and what have been the biggest hurdles for you when you started?
So I chose iRacing. For me, iRacing was the closest to the tracks I was running in, or I am running in. Also, I really like the model. I like the approach of the races, the official races and everything. Also connected to a team. For me, the biggest difficulty coming into iRacing and sim racing in general is just that I have no G-force. I have no inertia, so I'm used to that. From the word get-go. Since I am 10 years old, I'm used to that. So to get used to get the feedback only from the pedal and the wheel and the screen, and that's why we were saying it's so important to have something you like and you feel comfortable with. This was for me the biggest challenge, and on top of that, the competition is incredibly strong. You know, enough talking about me. We would really like to know, I would really like to know, what should a new sim racer focus on when he starts?
I think the main thing is to acknowledge that sim racing is really difficult, which probably was something that you had to do too, because everybody wants to win those races right from the start, but there are 10,000 or 20,000, 100,000 other people that all have the same goal, and there can only always be one race runner. So I think the best approach is to not be frustrated, is accept that it's really difficult and that there's a very small chance to actually win races.
I think it's an approach we can take also in real life, because it took me also a couple of races before I was DTM champion. So yeah, everything takes time, and you gotta leave it the time for it. Nils, tell us, what other tips do you have?
A lot, actually. But the most important ones at the beginning are to focus on the hardware setup correctly. Specifically, just make sure actually the whole distance of the pedal is used in the game. So if you press to the limit, it goes to the limit in the game. And if you go back to 0, it's 0 in the game as well. The other thing is make sure that the steering wheel you have turns the same in front of you as it turns in the game. And then the other best tip probably is to not ask too much of yourself right away. Start with slower cars and really get a feeling for the weight of the car and how it travels around the 4 tires. Of course, about driving, there's also a lot that needs to be said, but for the beginners, I think it's most important that they accept that these cars are already built for driving fast, right? They can do this on their own. They just need to be guided around the track a little. And for the players, it's very common to be super aggressive with the inputs and basically scream at the car, pressing everything too hard, being aggressive on the brake and throttle, steering very quickly, and instead just take a step back, be a little slower with everything, and instead focus on placing the car on the right part of the track. So start braking on the outside, come to the inside, back to the outside is much more important than being super aggressive. I think it's a tendency in sim racing where you just ask too much right away because you simply can't die.
That's actually a good point, because it's something I noticed in the differences between real life. In real life, we rather start under the limit and work ourselves slowly, step by step, to the limit. And on the sim, you rather do the opposite. You start at the limit or over the limit and work yourself a little bit down to find the right pace. That's a big difference between the two. So we covered some good points. The most important, guys, when you start sim racing, start from the bottom, work yourself up to the limit, do the laps, find your rhythm, and that's how you will find the performance, right?
Absolutely, and therefore we'll cover more driving techniques in a later episode in this series.
But in the meantime, in the next episode, we're gonna see what are the myths of sim racing. So stay tuned.